Now on Radio 4, the BBC's Make It Digital campaign continues. Georgina Ferry immerses herself in the 19th century world of one of our earliest technology visionaries in part 2 of The Letters of Ada Lovelace.
Ada Lovelace, the abandoned daughter of the romantic poet Lord Byron, predicted our digital age long before the first computer.
Dearest Mamma, the more I study, the more irresistible do I feel my genius for it to be. I do not believe that my father was, or ever could have been, such a poet as I shall be an analyst, a metaphysician, for with me the two go together indissolubly.
For Ada Lovelace, mathematics and poetry went hand in hand. The focus of her passion and imagination was one of the first thinking machines, the analytical engine designed by Charles Babbage. Her notes on Babbage's thinking machines brought her posthumous fame as a pioneering heroine of technology, celebrated as never before in this 200th anniversary of her birth. At the same time, there are plenty who dismiss her as delusional. Feminist icon or crazy fantasist? Neither does justice to the visionary but flawed human being she was. It's only through reading her letters that I've been able to discover what actually happened when Ada Lovelace and Charles Babbage worked together. As a young heiress, Ada Byron had been captivated by Charles Babbage's calculating machines. And by the age of 26, having offloaded responsibility for her 3 small children, she was desperate to make her own mark in the world of science.
12th of January, 1841. My dear Babbage, I am very anxious to talk to you. I will give you a hint on what. It strikes me that at some future time, it might be even within 3 or 4 years, or it might be many years hence, my head may be made by you subservient to some of your purposes and plans. If so, if ever I could be worthy or capable of being used by you, my head will be yours. And it is about this that I wish to speak most seriously to you. You have always been a kind and real and most invaluable friend to me, and I would that I could in any way repay it, though I scarcely dare so exalt myself as to hope, however humbly, that I can ever be intellectually worthy to attempt serving you. Yours, most sincerely, Ada Lovelace.
A month later, certain she'd hooked him, she wrote again.
My dear Babbage, we are to move to town on Thursday, and I hope to see you as soon afterwards as you like. The sooner the better. Remember that 1 o'clock is the best hour for a call. I think much of the possible, I believe I may say probable, future connexion between us, and it is an anticipation I increasingly like to dwell on.
Ada had known Babbage for years, but I'm struck by how daring and radical it was for her to offer to collaborate in his scientific career. He'd been a Cambridge professor of mathematics, and he mixed with all the leading scientists of the day. Ada's place in society was defined by her marriage to the Earl of Lovelace and his country estates. But against all expectations, she succeeded. In 1842, she spotted an article on his supremely innovative design for an analytical engine in a French journal, and surprised him with her elegant translation.
My dear Lady Lovelace, you should have written an original paper. The postponement of that will, however, only render it more perfect. I have been making vast resolutions of unbounded work during my visit, but in preparing the materials find indications of the necessity of repose after a long period of excitement. Ever my fair interpretress, your faithful slave, C. Babbage.
It was Babbage's idea that Ada should publish her translation of the article about his engine with a set of notes explaining its implications more fully and illustrating how it carried out calculations. Ada threw herself into the task.
My dear Babbage, I am working very hard for you, like the devil in fact, which perhaps I am. It appears to me that I am working up the notes with much success. and that even if the book be delayed in its publication a week or two in consequence, it would be worth Mr. Taylor's while to wait. I will have it well and fully done, or not at all.
Ada immediately recognised that the analytical engine had a power far beyond mere number crunching. Babbage's difference engine, which had fascinated her as a teenager, could do nothing but add. But his analytical engine could follow more or less any sequence of logical operations stamped out on punched cards. Ada's notes included the first step-by-step instructions that would allow the engine to solve complex problems. And that's why some people call her the world's first computer programmer. Ada saw, possibly better than Babbage did himself, what the potential of his analytical engine was. In her visionary Note A, she talked of the engine weaving algebraical patterns and suggested that Babbage's steam-powered cogs and shanks might be able to act upon other things besides number, even composing music. In other words, she anticipated our own digital age by more than a century. Babbage encouraged her unstintingly, and letters both fond and fractious flew between them.
I want to put in something about Bernoulli's numbers in one of my notes, as an example of how an implicit function may be worked out by the engine, without having been worked out by human head and hands first. Give me the necessary data and formulae. Yours ever, AAL.
My dear Lady Lovelace, I like much the improved form of the Bernoulli note, but can judge it better when I have the diagram and notation. I am very reluctant to return the admirable and philosophic view of the analytical engine contained in Note A. Pray do not alter it, and do let me have it returned on Monday. I send also the rest of Note D. The more I read your notes, the more surprised I am at them, and regret not having earlier explored so rich a vein of the noblest metal. I will attend your commands tomorrow, and am ever most truly yours, C. Babbage.
The beginning of Note G has never been returned into my hands. The missing part must either be at your house or at the printer's, and it seems to me very unlikely that you should have retained it. At the same time, I've always fancied you were a little harum-scarum and inaccurate now and then about the exact order and arrangement of sheets, pages and paragraphs, etc. Witness that paragraph which you so carelessly pasted over. I suppose I must set to work to write something better, if I can, as a substitute. However, I should be deucedly inclined to swear at you, I will allow.
Babbage remained calm in the face of Ada's outbursts. Her health, both mental and physical, was never robust, and I think he understood that her work on the notes was a form of therapy, giving a focus to her volatile imagination. But she writes for all the world as though she was the master and he the assistant.
I am beyond measure vexed to find that instead of inserting my corrected table in the revise, they have left it exactly as it was before. Pray see about it immediately. P.S. I've been very suffering, and more ill than ever yet. But today I have rallied. Hang the whole affair.
But euphoria eventually overtook despair. As she completed the 7 notes for which she's now famous, Ada basked in her own reflected glory.
I cannot refrain from expressing my amazement at my own child. The pithy and vigorous nature of the style seemed to me to be most striking. I am quite thunderstruck at the power of the writing. It is especially unlike a woman's style, surely, but neither can I compare it with any man's exactly.
Under pressure to get the paper finished, tempers frayed once again. Babbage tried to slip in an anonymous, self-justifying preface. The government had cut off his funding over his failure to deliver a completed engine. The publisher rejected it, and Babbage asked Ada to withdraw the paper in consequence. Predictably, she refused. They had a major bust-up, and Babbage was left to lick his wounds.
My dear Lady Lovelace, I have nothing to add at present, except that you did me injustice in supposing I wished you to break any engagement with the editor. I wished you to ask him to allow you to withdraw from it. Had the editor been in England, I believe he would, at my request, have inserted my defence, or forborne to have printed the paper. As it stands, I have done all I can at present do to defend myself, and having failed in the most important part, shall make the best I can of the rest. Ever truly yours, C. Babbage.
And now Ada felt she had the upper hand. By turns imperious and flirtatious, she offered to be his manager.
My dear Babbage, you would have heard from me several days ago, but for the hot work that has been going on between me and the printers. This is all now happily concluded. I must now come to a practical question respecting the future. Your affairs have been and are deeply occupying both myself and Lord Lovelace, and the result is that I have plans for you, which I shall either develop, or else throw my energies, my time and my pen into the service of some other department of truth and science, according to the reply I receive from you. I wish to add my mite towards expounding and interpreting the Almighty and his laws, and certainly I should feel it no small glory if I were enabled to be one of his most noted prophets in this world. I wonder if you will choose to retain the Lady Fairy in your service or not. Yours, ever most sincerely, A.A.L.
But the tiff with Babbage was soon over. 2 weeks later, Ada wrote to her mother.
Babbage and I are, I think, more friends than ever. I have never seen him so agreeable, so reasonable, or in such good spirits.
And they remained friends for life.
September 1843. My dear Lady Lovelace, I find it quite in vain to wait until I have leisure, so I have resolved that I will leave all other things undone and set out for Ashley, taking with me papers enough to enable me to forget this world and all its troubles, and if possible its multitudinous charlatans. Everything, in short, but the enchantress of numbers.
Babbage's analytical engine was never built. But Ada's translation and notes remain the most significant publication on the principles of computing of the 19th century. Publishing them was a bold move, supported by her husband William, at a time when titled ladies just didn't do that kind of thing.
Dearest Bird, as Ebrington was speaking and inquiring after you this morning, I told him a little the reasons why you went so little into any society. Health and pursuits, which latter I said were of such a nature as rather to exclude the world in its ordinary way. The conversation ended by my telling him the analytical engine had been the subject, and I gave him a copy of the translation. My dearest, I hope I have not done amiss in letting so much be known about you. I believe him to be very discreet and careful. I think, too, it is well to take such opportunities as may occur for allowing such information to ooze out.
With such a tentative marketing strategy, Ada's discreetly initialed notes didn't bring her celebrity in her lifetime. And anyway, she'd moved on. In 1844, Ada developed a passion for the new and rapidly moving science of electricity, a subject she thought might shed light on the workings of the body and brain. Once again, she tried to recruit the top man in the field, the eminent scientist, Michael Faraday.
Dear Mr. Faraday, I have never yet thanked you for the little paper you sent me this spring. I read it with the deepest attention and interest. For many years I have desired to be admitted to intercourse and friendship with you, and to become, in some respects, your disciple. To be metaphorical, I have no business to deflect the wave of your existence by the smallest curve even from its course. But if my wave can in certain of its points follow and touch yours, so that in fact they mutually add to each other's force at those points, then all is well. My own great scientific object, but this is strictly confidential, is a study of the nervous system by a masterly union of the highest abstract analysis with the most skillful and varied courses of experimental and practical science. I expect to bring the action of the nervous and vital system within the domain of mathematical science, and possibly to discover some great vital law of molecular action, similar for the universe of life, to gravitation for the sidereal universe. I need not say that this, if it can be accomplished at all, is the work of a lifetime, but one which I hope to crystallise before my death into a radiant and burning star for the light of mankind. I remain yours, sincerely, Augusta Ada Lovelace.
The original of this effusive letter is at least 5 times as long as this extract. It betrays Ada's fragile mental state, and it clearly rang warning bells for the tired and busy 53-year-old. Faraday's refusal was as polite as he could make it.
Dear Lady Lovelace, that I should rejoice to aid you in your purpose you cannot doubt, but nature is against you. You have all the confidence of unbalked health and youth, both in body and mind. I am a labourer of many years' standing, made daily to feel my wearing out. You, with increasing acquisitions of knowledge, enlarge your views and intentions. I feel the decay of my powers, and am curtailing to a continual process of lessening my intentions and contracting my pursuits. It is this which makes me say most unwillingly that I dare not undertake what you propose. And now, my dear lady, I must conclude until I see you in town, being indeed your true and faithful servant, M. Faraday.
But Ada didn't give up.
Dear Mr. Faraday, it is wholly unfitting that I should add to your engagements and labours, but you will, perhaps, allow me to diminish from them. I shall be in town for a few days sometime about the middle of next month. You will then, I am sure, give me a long evening quite quietly in St. James's Square, and we will have a great deal of conversation, or only a little, or in short just what you may wish. Yours, very truly, A. Lovelace. P.S. My only remaining lurking timidity respecting you is lest I should appear as if determined to force myself on you.
Dear Lady, the day after I had written to you, I received your second very kind note. I hope you will always so bear with me. A second volume of my researches is just out, which with the first I propose sending in a day or two to St. James Square. Give them a value by accepting them from me. All such remarks come with a very different feeling now to what they would have had formerly, for there is now a different communion between us. Before it would have been much of formal courtesy. Now it is with deep respect. Ever your grateful and obliged servant, M. Faraday.
Ada remained in touch with Faraday, but only socially. She next travelled alone to the Somerset estate of a gentleman amateur scientist, Andrew Cross, to witness his electrical experiments. Mary Shelley's novel Frankenstein had been published just 25 years before, and questions about the links between electricity and life were very much in the air. Ada's husband, William, seemed to encourage her independent streak, justifying to her mother the fact that she was going without a maid.
Dearest Hen, it has turned out that Ada is so skilful and capable not only of attending to herself personally, so as to supersede any other, but even in packing, arranging, altering clothes, planning dresses. She has now less trouble while doing a great deal of all this herself than she had before when this was professed to be executed for her. In sickness, too, she is just as independent. Poor thing, heating in her little saucepan on her fire anything that may be requisite.
What William didn't realise was that in travelling without servants, the poor thing was also evading surveillance from her relatives. She found Andrew Cross hopelessly disorganised, but formed an enduring relationship with his son John that she kept secret until her deathbed. Once the truth tumbled out, her mother had all her correspondence with John Cross destroyed. But we do know that Ada gave him money, let him pawn her family jewels, and gave him the signet ring and lock of hair that her father, Lord Byron, had personally left her. It's also probable that John Cross diverted her attention from mathematics to something that would prove much more risky.
Dearest Mamma, I'm afraid you will take no interest in what interests me just now, viz., the winner of the Derby. Indeed, I am in danger of becoming quite a sporting character.
What Ada didn't admit was that she was betting and losing considerable sums. As always, Ada was hungry for excitement and indifferent to the concern of her devoted husband for its effects on her health.
My dearest, depend upon it that until you more successfully and religiously control your own propensity to disorder and delay, you will never be in a condition to improve yourself or satisfy others. You cannot expect good health. Your calculations should be based on indifferent bodily strength, and this ought to render you, if possible, still more careful not to run in debt to time and strength.
Ada was ill on and off all her life. 19th century medical terms tend to be vague, so it's not easy to tell exactly what was wrong with her, but she bravely refused to become a chronic invalid.
Received your letter of Monday night. I am grieved, my dearest, to learn by it that the pain has continued. I admire and marvel much at the serenity of your temper and the sweetness with which you bear all these irritations. It is at least a comfort that you are able to even think of any studies, and still more that you can talk of pursuing them. The fear that this resource would be taken from you has been one of the saddest of my many sad reflections about you, and I do earnestly hope that you will be able to apply yourself some little to them. Besides, I am not without some ambition on your account.
In June 1851, the doctors diagnosed Ada, precisely for once, with cancer of the uterus. All Ada's married life, her mother and husband had collaborated in their attempts to manage her. But it was William who showed her true compassion as her disease progressed. Lady Byron couldn't or wouldn't believe that her daughter's illness might just be a terrible misfortune.
It is impossible for me to travel. I am in bed with a compound attack of gastric irritation and face ache. I have long anticipated some illness in you from over-exciting habits, and I cannot agree with the doctors that there has been no extrinsic cause for this state of health. You know I have always held the same opinions as to the necessity of an equable life and the avoidance of stimulants with a brain like yours. I do not think your constitution so much in fault, therefore, as you do. Use it better, and you will find it grateful.
I have been very unwell, and am getting better again. I was partially dead, there is no doubt. But I have come to life again. All will yet be well. But what a fearful thing is an insidious, painless disease that undermines before one knows it.
To relieve Ada's suffering, her mother advocated the useless fad of mesmerism, a combination of magnetism and hypnosis, to treat the pain instead of opium. William disagreed.
I am vexed that the pain still goes on, but your mother's objections to the use of narcotics are insupportable. The error in all her reasoning is that she does not see, which is the greatest difficulty to be overcome or the chief object to be attained. And the first in this case is to get you relief from a pain which is a monstrous evil itself, and prevents also progress in other ways. It is singular that without having seen you for months she should assume the prerogative of superseding such a man as Locock, who is in daily observation of your symptoms and, unhappily, your sufferings too.
Dr. Locock has been making a thorough local examination, of which I cannot say that the result is very encouraging. There is a hard enlargement forming in the front, pressing painfully on the bladder, and he says, amply enough to account for the pain, which has lately so increased. I do fear the disease is inveterate beyond measure, and will eventually wear me out. If so, why, we can't help it. But I dread the pain. Leeches are again now talked of, if things don't alter in a few days. I look much to the music. It is a great comfort.
Dearest Ada, I feel most grateful permission to serve you in any way. You have been too little disposed to accept such services. Pain. Do not hesitate between the only two conclusions which can be adopted about the pain creator. He must be very malevolent, with his infinite power, feel that if you can, or he must be eternally benevolent, to make transient pain the means of durable enjoyment of that paradise which you speak of in freedom from pain. Now, under mental pain as severe as your bodily suffering, I have the serenest assurance of this both for you and myself. Amen.
Tolerably comfortable now, and being let down very easy. I begin to understand death, which is going on quietly and gradually every minute, and will never be a thing of one particular moment. I shall send for you any minute, but we still have a little time before us.
Ada died on the 27th of November, 1852. She was 36 years old. Years earlier, Ada had visited her father, Lord Byron's ancestral home, Newstead Abbey, for the first time. Having never known him, and knowing all she did about his shocking life, including incest with his sister, her reaction had surprised even herself.
My first and very melancholy impressions at Newstead gradually changed to quite an affection for the place before I left it. I have lost my monumental and desolate feeling respecting it. It seemed like descending into the grave, but I have had a resurrection. I do love the venerable old place, and all my wicked forefathers.
In life, Ada bravely transcended the struggle to escape from her controlling mother and the legacy of her notorious father. But it was Byron who won in the end. By her own request, Ada's body lies beside his in the family vault near Newstead Abbey. Lady Byron did not attend the funeral.
The letters of Ada Lovelace were presented by Georgina Ferry. Ada Lovelace was played by Sally Hawkins, Olivia Williams was Lady Byron, Anthony Head was Charles Babbage, George Watkins was William, and Sam Dale was Michael Faraday. The producer was Anna Buckley.